Hello learners, I welcome you all to the 34th lecture for the course on International Investment Law and the Environment. So in this lecture we will be looking at one other case. We've been discussing cases in the last week, in this week, and also we'll discuss the cases in the next week as well. And the case that I've chosen for this week is Marian Ungalape and Reinhard Ungalape versus Costa Rica. Technically, these are two cases, Marian Ungalape versus Costa Rica, Reinhard Ungalape versus Costa Rica, but the claimants, they had submitted a petition before ICSID Secretariat. They wanted a joint proceeding. So, because the parties wanted it, the ICSID, there was one common proceeding that had happened. So, one common award that was issued. Technically, two different cases, but the award is one. So, that is why I am discussing these two cases together, because the award is one, right? So, what is the case about? So, there were some properties that both the claimants, Marian and Reinhard, they either owned separately or together. That was, subject matter of this particular dispute. So, it makes sense for them also to combine the proceedings. So, either they owned certain property separately or jointly, which they claimed were affected by certain measures of Costa Rica. So, what were the properties? So, they had made an investment into ecotourism in Playa Grande region in Costa Rica, which has a very beautiful beach. And in this region, they have made two kinds of investment. One is phase 1 property, the other one is phase 2 property. Phase 1 property comes around 39 acres or hectares of land, and phase 2 was additional 3.45 acres or hectares of land. So, that was the phase 2 property. So, phase 1 property was initially owned by a company based in Panama, which was called Palm Beach SA. So, Palm Beach SA owned that land, which now we call it as phase 1 property, and then these two claimants, Marian and Reinhard, they were the shareholders in a company called Uni-Caribbean. So, their company bought the phase 1 property from Palm Beach. That is how they got the investment in the first place. And with regard to the phase 2 property, again they bought it from a company called Tamarind, which was again held by a German national. Oh, by the way, these two claimants were German nationals, right? So, now what we see here is, now this is the phase 1 and phase 2 property. So, phase 1 property, when they acquired it from Palm Beach, even Palm Beach had invested in that lane, in that property, for making an urban development. So, basically they wanted to lay down roads and then ensure that there is water connection and all of that, then divide the properties into lots and sell it. That was the initial idea also. So, even after the claimants had acquired the phase 1 property, what they did was they again sold lots. So, the lots were sold to many people. There were residential lots, there were commercial spaces, and there were reserved spaces as well. And some of the lots were owned by the claimants either jointly or separately. This was the thing with regard to phase 1 property, and most of the lots were already sold also. So, phase 2 property was acquired in 1994 from the German company, and Marian Ungalape became the sole owner of phase 2 property by 1998. So, this is with regard to the investment that the claimants had made in Costa Rica, and this investment was very close to the beach, and that beach was a nesting ground for endangered leatherback turtles. So, that is what you should understand about the location of the investment and what the claimant's investment were. Now, let us look at what were the measures that were taken by Costa Rica that the claimants allege has violated their rights in the investment. Firstly, in 1990s itself, they had proposed there will be a national park that will be established, Las Bulas National Marine Park. As soon as Reinhard Ungalape got to know about the proposal, he went and met with the Costa Rican officials, especially the officials from Ministry of Natural Resources and Mines. So there were meetings with them and all of that. But the Costa Rican president as well as Ministry of Natural Resources and Mines in 1991 came out with a decree saying that a national park will be established and any property that is within the national national park will be expropriated. And then the decree also stated that budget had to be allocated for the creation of this national park in the 1992 budget. So this is what the very first measure that we will see. The very first measure was the 1991 decree issued by the president in collaboration with Ministry of Natural Resources and Mines. Okay, so I hope you've understood that. Even after that, no expropriation had happened. I mean, this one, the 1991 decree states that anything that falls within the national park, expropriation will happen, but no expropriation had happened. So the claimants in this case, they stated that they thought that they were safe from that expropriation, that their property will not be expropriated. So even then we could see that Reinhard Ungalev still continued with the negotiation. I mean, even before the decree, he was meeting the Costa Rican officials. Then after the decree also, he was meeting the Costa Rican officials, and this time he met as a representative of Palm Beach SA. And then his negotiation, Reinhard Ungalev's negotiation with the Costa Rican officials resulted in an agreement called as 1992 agreement. So what was agreed in this agreement? Basically, Reinhard had agreed to donate some of the land to the park. Right, he had made that agreement. So he will donate some of his land to the park. And then instead they should not build any structure on the donated land, one, and they should not also, they should sort of issue permits and all of that. So that was sort of recorded, that they should not unnecessarily create any hurdles. So basically from both sides, what was agreed was he will donate some land and they should not construct any building, and he can carry on with his activities. Now what had happened was, pursuant to this agreement, construction permit for phase 1 property was also issued. 1992 this agreement was signed, right? So construction permit for phase 1 property was issued. So claimants state that till the issuance of construction permit for the phase 1 property, we could see Costa Rica respecting the terms that was agreed in the 1992 agreement, but then they stopped implementing the terms that was agreed in 1992. So there was a contest or a fight between Costa Rica and the claimants with regard to the interpretation of the 1992 agreement. So here the claimant stated that the Costa Rica's measures were something contrary to what they had already agreed on the 1992 agreement. This is why we will see in the merits of the case, they have even invoked the umbrella clause as well. So umbrella clause again talks about observance of any obligation that the host state had entered into, right? So here they say the claimant stated that they had undertaken certain obligations under the 1992 agreement, then why didn't the Costa Rica respect that? On the other hand, Costa Rica was saying that an interpretation of 1992 agreement cannot be given so much of effect so that it affects Costa Rica's exercise of bona fide power to enact law and regulations. So that is what Costa Rica was saying. And you can't construe a 1992 agreement that it will inhibit or hamper Costa Rica's ability to enact laws and regulations, especially a regulation that was taken for the welfare of leatherback turtles and for the protection of the environment. So that is with regard to the second instrument, which is the 1992 agreement. I hope you remember the first one. First one was the 1991 decree, and the second one was the 1992 agreement between the claimants and the Costa Rican officials. Then the third measure that we will be looking at is the 1995 National Park Law was enacted by Costa Rican Parliament. So this park law stated that any property that falls within the boundary of park, national park that's going to be established, that will be expropriated. And then when they sort of explained what will be the boundary of the park, they had used this term which meant that the western boundary will be seaward. So when they had used this particular term in the national park law, so technically the property, phase 2 property of the claimants were outside that, because they mentioned it seaward. Then later we do see Costa Rica said that was an error and they did not mean seaward, they meant landward. If it is meant as landward, then some of the property of the claimants may be covered within the park boundary, right? So then there was a contest with regard to whether their property fell within the boundaries of national park or not. That contest was also there. So we see a law in 1995 which says expropriation had to happen if the land belongs to private owners and compensation had to be paid. And then we see in 1996 there is this subordinate agency called SETANA. Subordinate agency of what? Subordinate agency of Ministry of Environment and Energy. And SETANA, basically SETANA is an abbreviation of the Spanish expansion. The English translation would be Costa Rican Environmental Technical Secretariat, right? So what SETANA did was, SETANA came out with the guidelines. And what did this guidelines do? So the guidelines stated that no new permits will be given for the development of development activities that otherwise sort of endanger the nesting of endangered leatherback turtle and all of that. So the new guidelines were also issued, new environmental requirements were also issued by SETANA in 1996. So this was there. Meanwhile, what had happened was, the Ministry of Environment and Energy, they issued a resolution number 375. They issued a resolution number 375, which stated that it's not just the land on which the park is going to be located, but even the adjacent lands will be expropriated. Right. So the resolution number 375 stated that even the adjacent land, which sort of formed a parcel of enclave land in addition to the park, that will also be expropriated in order to make it easier for the private owners. That is what actually the resolution stated, right? So that it will be easy even for the private owners. So it's not just the park land, but the land that fell within the enclave land, all of that will be expropriated. That definitely affected the claimant's investment. So the claimant had challenged this resolution before the Ministry of Environment and Energy, and then what we see here is they had immediately taken back the resolution number 375, that was immediately taken back. So this, according to the claimants, was the first attempt at expropriating their investment. And then very soon we saw another resolution that was passed by Ministry of Environment and Energy, and that resolution was resolution number 421. If I'm not wrong, it's resolution number 421. So resolution number 421, what it stated was, it's, you know, when the first resolution was rescinded, at that point of time, when they revoked the first resolution, at that point of time only they had acknowledged that 75 into 100 meters of the claimant's investment fell within the boundaries of park. That was mentioned while revoking the first resolution. So basically resolution number 421 stated that 75 meter strip will also be expropriated. That is what was mentioned in resolution number 421, right? So all of these are happening. So this is happening with regard to the phase 2 property. So the 75 meter strip is there in the phase 2 property. Meanwhile, what had happened was, and all of these, the phase 1 property lots were all sold. All of these had happened. So now what had happened was, the resolution number 421 stated this. So Then pursuant to that, another temporary measure was also taken by Setana. Setana took a temporary measure, and then that temporary measure was supposed to be for 1 year period, and that eventually stayed for 2 years. So the temporary measure was also challenged by the claimant before the local court, I think before the Supreme Court of Costa Rica. So the court comes out with a judgment saying that, what was the judgment? Either you expropriate, or at least you allow the private owners to develop their property or develop their investment in accordance with, keeping in mind that it does not cause any harm to the leatherback turtles. The court said that you cannot keep it in limbo. I mean, you can't either you expropriate, pay money, but if you don't have the money to expropriate, at least allow them to develop their investment, develop their property, but that development should be in accordance with environmental principles, should be in accordance with the principle that protects the leatherback turtles. This is what the court had stated. The court actually stated that you have to pay compensation and expropriate it. So basically that was the first thing that the Costa Rica had to do. If it doesn't do that, at least do this, that allow the private owners to develop their properties. So this is how the court had decided. So there were various measures we had seen. Then the court had come out with this particular decision. Now what had happened was, after the Supreme Court had passed this decision, then we could see that the claimants entered into a negotiation with many Costa Rican officers, Costa Rican officials, Costa Rican ministries, many of the stakeholders were involved. Then finally they had arrived at something called Roadmap Agreement in October 2008. So what does the Roadmap Agreement say? Roadmap Agreement says at least they can go ahead with the property and all of that. So meanwhile what had happened was, all of these were happening when the first resolution had was withdrawn or revoked back. So Merian had also submitted for an environmental impact assessment. So that was submitted, and there was no decision that was taken with regard to that environmental impact assessment, because we do see that Ministry of Energy, Environment and Energy had instructed the subordinate agency Setana not to grant any environmental permits, because there was a case that was filed in the court, an Amparo case. Amparo, I think it's very similar to India's writ jurisdiction, right? So an Amparo case was filed. Pursuant to that, with regard to protection of leatherback turtles, so Ministry had instructed the subordinate agency not to issue environmental permits. So the environmental impact assessment that was submitted by Merian Ungalam, nothing had happened with regard to this. So in the roadmap, that point was picked up, that phase 2 properties environmental impact study was submitted, but that was not approved and all of that. So in the roadmap they stated that we have to pick up the pace. So then pursuant to the roadmap agreement, Ministry of Environment and Energy issued a decision order, whatever it is, asked the Setana to take a decision on the environmental impact assessment. Pursuant to that, Setana had asked Merian Ungalam to submit environmental impact assessment, and that was submitted also. As per the terms, she was Setana was supposed to take a decision within 6 months. So Merian Ungalam, she was waiting for 6-month period for getting a decision on this. But then over a period of 2 years, nothing had happened. But at least these are the measures that had happened with regard to phase 2 property. Now there was one case that was again filed before the Supreme Court, and this case was filed by a non-governmental organization, and the case was filed for the reason that the government is not taking sufficient measures to protect the endangered leatherback turtles. So when this case is heard by the court gave a very sweeping decision. It ordered the ministry to expropriate the land at the earliest. It also ordered one of the agencies to conduct a 6-month study in order to see what is feasible, and then it also ordered to say that Okay, so within the park boundaries, what measures had to be taken? It also stated that what measures had to be taken in park buffer zone. What is this buffer zone? 500-meter strip of claimant's phase 1 property was affected by that buffer zone. So it's the code had stated that what had to be done with the buffer zone, that also had to be looked at. So the study was supposed to be completed within 6 months. So when the buffer zone was also included, so that affected phase 1 property, and many of the licenses were all revoked, many of the permits were not given pursuant to this particular decision. So this is what the claimant had alleged, that Costa Rican measure has also affected their phase 1 property as well. I mean, they had many allegations with regard to phase 2 property, and this with that Costa Rican's court's decision, they stated, the claimant stated that it affected their phase 1 property. And the study which was supposed to complete before 6 months, it took longer time. So meanwhile, one of the resolution was passed which amended resolution number 421, that was resolution 023. Resolution 023 came into effect in order to rectify the defects that was there in resolution 421. So what was the defects that were there in resolution 421? Actually what had happened was, when resolution 421 was passed, before that resolution was passed, Costa Rica conducted an appraisal with regard to the 75-meter strip that was done. Then later on, resolution 421 was passed, which stated that the 75-meter strip will be expropriated. So now against this, the Attorney General of Costa Rica issued an order that the technical compliance was not there, because ideally first the resolution should come, then the appraisal should happen, but in this case the reverse had happened. So therefore Attorney General halted the enforcement of resolution 421. So that was not also put into place. We had already seen 375 was actually revoked by the ministry itself. So now resolution 023 was passed. Meanwhile, when the study has not been completed, but resolution number 023 was passed, amending resolution 421 in order to freeze the title with regard to phase 2 property, especially because 75-meter strip was within the park boundary, right? I mean, all the while, even in Supreme Court, even in the tribunal, the claimant have always been contesting, but but Costa Rican officials, they stated that the word C word that was used in park law was an error, and therefore their 75-meter strip is actually included within the park boundary itself. This is how the fight has been. Even if we look at the Supreme Court decision that was in favor of Marin Ungalip, that either expropriation has to happen and compensation has to be paid, or she should be allowed to develop her investment in accordance with environmental principles. All of that decision also stated that 75-meter strip is within the national park boundary. So that contest is always there throughout, even in domestic forum as well as in this investment arbitration as well. So 023 froze the title to phase 2 property. So then again, so all of these measures are actually challenged by the claimants in this case. After this also, there was this something very similar to CAG in India. This is Controller General in Costa Rica. So he had the Controller General actually oversees the public funds, treasury and all of that. So the Controller General raised 4 issues as well. So that was also challenged by the claimants in this case. The Controller General had ordered MINET to take the following steps. MINET is Ministry of Natural Resources and Mines. So what the Controller General had asked them to do was to replace certain zone markers and to prepare an official map of the park, and to assess the legal position of certain titles in the area by 31st August 2010. Also to take possession of the donated areas to the park, to take measures to cancel the 1992 agreement by 30th June 2010. Costa Rica has always been saying that the 1992 agreement was nothing but a public recognition of what already they were supposed to do. apparently in Costa Rica, as per the laws of Costa Rica, whenever you build, you develop the land, certain parts of the land has to be kept as green spaces or open spaces, and the title for those spaces had to be transferred to municipality. So what had happened in the 1992 agreement was nothing but a mere public recognition of something that you're supposed to do as per the Costa Rican laws. So therefore, the Controller General also wants to take back or terminate the 1992 agreement. These were the issues that were actually challenged by the claimants in this case, and they stated that it violated multiple provisions of the bilateral investment treaty. One was FET clause, expropriation clause, and full protection and security clause, as well as umbrella clause, as well as non-impairment clause. So all of these clauses they had claimed that were violated by Costa Rica, and we'll conclude the factual circumstance of this case here, and then we will, in the second segment, we'll look at the introductory remark that was given by a tribunal before proceeding to the merits of the case. That all of these I'll discuss in detail in the further segments of this lecture. Thank you.